I first wanted to start off by getting a little bit of the history of your company. When did Runbeck elections begin, and what need did you see out there that you wanted to address?
Yeah, Runbeck actually started in 1972, but not as an election company, right? That goes back to the current majority owner's father. He started the company selling construction at. But as time progressed in the late 90s, early 2000s, it started to migrate towards an election company. And now we're 100% an election services company, providing print and mail, hardware, software, pretty much everything except tabulation of the vote. We don't do anything around counting of the vote.
And these machines, can you talk a little bit about what role they perform within the election process? If they're not doing the tallying, how are they helping these elections officials out?
Yeah, so the Agilis is a mail sorter. So if you forget elections for a moment, it's just like what you see at a post office that sorts the mail for your water bill, your credit card statement, what have you. So the Agilis that fundamentally is that, it sorts the mail. But we developed it from the ground up to be for elections. So everything, there's nothing below the deck or behind any sort of like hard plastic covers. Everything's transparent. So anybody that's observing can see where the mail's going, what path it is taking to get to a designated pocket. And so the Agilis reads a 3 of 9, generally it's a 3 of 9 barcode that identifies the voter. It's on the envelope. It's usually the voter ID or some concatenated set of data, voter ID and date, something like that. So it's unique for that election, for that voter. And so what happens is it reads the barcode, takes a picture of the envelope, and also takes a picture of the signature on the envelope. So then election officials don't have to have trays of mail spread all over their office. They can just simply take electronically and view the signature they have on file for that voter and the signature that came back on the envelope. They make that comparison with humans. They look at it and go, it's good or bad. They assign it a code, right? If it's good, it's generally good, although there are some exceptions to that. Or it's challenged, right? It's missing the signature. Husband signs wife's envelope, wife signed husband's, but it speeds that process up. To put it in perspective, if you do it manually, meaning you have a tray of mail, you give it to somebody, they pull out an envelope, they hold it up to the screen, and they pull up the signature that's on file. They can do about 60 an hour, generally is what we hear from election officials. This takes the speeds up to 300 to 500 an hour because it's automatically coming up in front of the election workers. And again, generally this varies across the country. You have a Democrat and a Republican both viewing the signatures. So they're in agreement that matches the signature on file. The vast majority of the challenges are people forget to sign the envelopes or husband and wife sign each other's on accident. And then the counties can find those, contact the voters much quicker than if they were doing it the old fashioned way, which is just, pulling them up and hold them up to the screen.
When you designed this device, was there anything out there like it? And how have you been able to market them and get them to, at least 19 places around the country here?
Yeah, there were sorters, right? There's been postal sorters for a long time, but they were all designed first and foremost for the post office. And so we designed this to be simple, to fit through a regular door. A lot of the big sorters that you see at a post office or large banks or what have you, they have to be hardwired in. So you have to have an electrician come in. It's 3-phase power. So it's a lot more complicated. The software is more complicated to operate because you're dealing with all the postal codes around the country, things like that. We developed this to fit through an ADA compatible door. We developed the software to be simple to use. Election officials have other things going on. They're not constantly running the machines. They're not constantly out there every day, like in a post office. Every day the operators are using that machine, right? An election official may use it only twice a year, and they're hiring temps to do it, or they're reassigning somebody for that duty for that election cycle. So we developed the software for election folks, and it's all about balancing, right? Once that envelope is seen, it's now logged in the system. So if it doesn't get processed the next day or whatever the timeline is for that county, there are flags, right? It's noticeable that you're missing a tray of mail, you're missing a piece of mail. So we audit down to every single piece that comes back. But it was all designed for election people, right? Because a lot of them are nomadic. Because the general view is that they only work twice a year, which is not at all true. But their office space gets repurposed. So they don't have the dedicated warehouse space to who have a giant machine that is fixed to the floor. So they have to disassemble, move it down to a storage closet, bring the machine back, and it gives them that ability to do it without a lot of effort. They can do it themselves, we can do it for them, but it really was designed for that kind of nomadic lifestyle that many election offices are forced to suffer under.
The price tag here, 315K. What are some of the components that go into that, and why is it that much?
Yeah, a lot of it's the technology, right? So it's you've got basically 2 or 3 major components. You've got the transport, that's where the camera is, it takes a picture of the envelope. We also check thickness. There's a laser that checks the deflection of the belt. So if husband, wife, and 3 children all put their ballots in the same envelope, it's going to get rejected as too thick. And so that's also one of the integrity checks. We check the dimensions of the envelopes. And so that all happens what's called the transport, and make sure that that envelope is the right thickness. So 1 ballot per voter. It's the right dimension so the water bills aren't mixed in or some other piece of mail is not mixed in. Make sure that that ballot is for that election, that envelope is for that election. So all that happens in the front end. That's all software, database driven. And then you have stacker sections, and they have pockets. So each stacker has 4 pockets. And that just allows the counties to sort down to maybe precinct if they wish to, or to sort down to legislative district. It depends on the county and kind of what their rules are. But some people just sort, hey, I want 300 pieces to a tray. And every single tray will get 300 pieces, not 301, not 299, but it'll be a 300 piece count. So they've got this auditability as it goes through the process of every piece being accounted for. And then so there's a lot of metal involved, there's a lot of wiring, there's a lot of control boards, chips, as we've all struggled with getting computers right now, chipsets are important. And then the software is critical to make sure that the reports help the election officials balance out at the end of the day to know that every envelope and mail packet received is accounted for and processed properly.
Your system is never seeing an open ballot, correct?
Correct. Well, we do, there is an opener on it, but it doesn't extract the ballot. So it just, if the piece goes through signature verification, right, and it's accepted by the county, the next time that piece goes through the sorter, it'll mill off or open the bottom of the envelope. And we've got those deployed all over the country. They don't cut the ballot, they don't do anything, but then those go to a good tray, and then the county will extract. So generally speaking, again, this is different by county, there'll be somebody that separates the envelope from the ballot, and they go down different paths in the office. So you don't see how, you can't trace back to how somebody voted, but we don't actually process an open envelope or a exposed ballot to see how they voted or anything like that.
With a lot of places introducing the universal mail-in balloting, have you seen an increase in the interest for your product? And do you think that's a direct causation? With a lot of places introducing the universal mail-in balloting, have you seen an increase in the interest for your product? And do you think that's a direct causation?
Yeah, in a lot of cases. So the West has been vote by mail for a long time, right? Most of the Western states, because just geography, they're spread out more. They've gone vote by mail a lot of years ago. Florida and Ohio were really the eastern states, if you will, or the Midwestern states that have gone vote by mail. But as voters start to use vote by mail, they like it. Because right now, most people could probably tell you who they're going to vote for president in 2024, even though they don't know who the candidates are yet, right? They just know they're going to vote for one party or the other. But you go down ballot to the local school races, the local township, the county races, you don't know. And so to be able to research those at home, initiatives that go on ballots to get something approved, a tax bond or something like that, people want to be able to research those. And even though there's a lot of information that gets mailed to the homes, and when you get ready to vote, you want to be able to sit down and go through that process, look up the initiatives, look up the referendums. And once voters do that, typically they really like that process, and then they start pushing more and more for that vote by mail. And so when we did in 20 with the pandemic, a lot of people got exposed to that. A lot of states are continuing down that process because it is more convenient for the voter. The counties, historically, we vote on election day, right? We vote on the Tuesday in November, but it's harder to find poll workers. It's harder to find schools that will open up. When I was young, our school was always open for election day. Schools don't want to do that anymore. Churches don't want to do that. Community centers don't want to open up for just a lot of political reasons, legal reasons. It's all over the place. But to do vote by mail allows the counties to more easily manage that staff, the process, get the votes counted, get them counted earlier. In some cases, some states allow you to start counting and processing anywhere 10 to 12 days before election day. So the vote by mail ballots get processed early versus waiting till election day when you have to get everything back from the polls and then start to count, and you get this kind of delayed result. More and more I see counties wanting to go vote by mail for that reason. A lot of it's around the audit trail. It's around the integrity of the system. So you can account for every piece. Hey, this piece came in, it got through the whole process, got to opening, and it got tabulated, right? It's one of those things where humans can do that, but you always hear these stories about a mail tray being found, you know, or something. When it's human processes, things get set aside. You're going to go talk to your supervisor, you forget it's on your desk, and things get kind of lost in the shuffle occasionally. With this, it gives that tracking, that integrity of that piece showed up at 7:09 a.m. It was signature verified at 9:10, and then it was processed and ready for tabulation by 5 o'clock that afternoon. That gives that integrity and that timestamp so the counties and the voters have confidence in the system.